Good afternoon, boys and girls. I just came back from my morning walk, so water with me. Everybody should always have bottled water with them at all times. You know, this can really help you prevent from contracting the coronavirus, COVID epidemic, virus that's going on out there. Anything, okay, even a cold. Okay, so we are on chapter. We are in chapter 9. Pinocchio sells his spelling book. Oh. And I believe he has his hat made out of bread. All right. Here we go. Pinocchio sells his spelling book. The snowstorm having ceased, Pinocchio started forth to school with his new spelling book under his arm. On the way, 1,000 fantastic ideas ran through his little head, and he built 1,000 castles in the air, each finer than the last. And this is the way he talked to himself. Today at school, I must quickly learn how to read. Tomorrow, I must learn how to write. And the next day, I must learn how to do sums of figures. After that, because of my ability, I shall earn lots of money, and with the very first coins that come into my pocket, I shall at once buy a new coat for my father. It shan't be an ordinary coat, but one trimmed with silver and gold with diamond buttons. The poor man certainly deserves it, for in order to get him a book to study with, he has sold the very coat off his back in this weather too. I tell you, there are not many such fathers. At this moment, he suddenly heard of a fife and drum company. Twiddle, twiddle, twiddle went the fifes, and boom, boom, boom went the drums. He stopped to listen. The sound came from the end of a long street which led to an open square near the seashores. Where is that beautiful music? He said. It's too bad I have to go to school or else. He looked doubtfully down the street. He must choose for himself whether to go to school or to follow the music. Finally, he said, today I think I shall hear the music, and tomorrow go to school. At any time will do to go to school. No sooner said than done, and away he went down the street at full speed. The further he ran, the more clearly he heard the fifes and drums. Twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty soon he found himself in an open square filled with people who were gathered in front of a large wooden building covered with gaily colored signs and pictures. What house is this? He asked a little boy who stood by. Read the signs and you'll know, was the reply. I would gladly read them, but I haven't learned how to read yet. Right, boy, you? Then I will read it for you. It says, Grand Puppet Theater. How soon does the play begin? Right away. How much does it cost to get in? 5 cents. Pinocchio was by this time in a perfect fever of curiosity, and forgetting all his good resolutions, he turned shamelessly to the boy and said, "Well, will you lend me the money until tomorrow?" "Willingly, if I had it, but today I am short of money myself." "I will sell you my coat for 5 pennies," said Pinocchio. "Who wants a coat made of colored cardboard? If it should rain, it would come to pieces." "What would you give me for my shoes?" "They are not fit for anything but the fire." "How much money will you give me for my cap?" "A fine bargain indeed, a cap made of paste. The rats would be likely to eat it right off my head." Pinocchio was on nettles. He was on the point of making a final offer, but he didn't have the courage. At last he said, "Will you give me 5 cents for this new spelling book?" "I never buy anything like that from other boys," replied the youngster, who had better judgment than the puppet. "For 5 cents I will buy your spelling book," said a second-hand dealer, who had chanced to hear the conversation, and the book was sold on the spot. And all this time poor Geppetto stayed at home, shivering with cold, because he had sold his coat to buy a spelling book for his son. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. The puppets welcome Pinocchio. When Pinocchio went into the playhouse, something happened which nearly caused a riot. Hold on. Okay. Which nearly called a riot. The curtain was up and the play had already begun. Two of the actors were then upon the stage, quarreling away as is usual in puppet plays, and threatening to beat each other with sticks. The audience was laughing loudly at their antics, for they capered around and motioned as naturally as if they had been real people. All at once one of them ceased speaking, and looking over the audience, he pointed toward the end of the room, shouting in a stage voice, "Can it be possible? Or do I dream? And yet the boy yonder is Pinocchio!" "It is indeed he!" cried another, leaping from behind the scene. "Pinocchio! Pinocchio!" shouted all the others in the chorus, running up on the stage. "It is our brother Pinocchio! Hooray!" "Come up here, Pinocchio," called the first speaker. "Come throw your arms around your wooden brother." And this affectionate greeting Pinocchio gave a leap across the back of the seat, then over the pit and orchestra, and finally landed upon the stage. Then you could hardly imagine the embraces, the kisses, the loving words, and the hand claps when Pinocchio received from that little wooden company of actors. It was indeed a touching sight, but the audience, when they saw that the play was not going on, began to grow impatient and to call, "We want the comedy. Go on with the play." It was all breath thrown away because the puppets, instead of resuming their parts, redoubled their noise and their antics, and taking Pinocchio upon their shoulders, they carried him in front of the footlights. Just then the manager came out. He was a big, ugly fellow who frightened people merely by looking at them. He had shaggy whiskers, as black as ink, and so long that they reached the ground, and he trampled upon the ends when he walked. His mouth was as large as an oven, and his eyes like to read lanterns. In his hands he carried a huge whip made of snakes and foxes' tails, twisted together. At sight, he at sight of him, all the players stood dumb, not daring to breathe. One could have heard a fly walk across the ceiling. "Why do you come here and cause trouble in my theatre?" he demanded of Pinocchio in the harsh voice of an orc with a cold in his head. "Believe me, most worthy sir, the fault was not mine." Enough of that. We will settle accounts tonight, and he hung Pinocchio upon the wall. When the play was over, the manager went into the kitchen where he had dressed sheep for his dinner, and placed it in on a spit. But he needed some more wood for the fire to finish roasting it. So he called the two of the puppets. "Bring me the puppet that you will find hanging on yonder on a nail. He appears to be made of nice dry wood, and ought to be make a splendid fire for finishing this roast." At first the two puppets hesitated, but a glance from their master's eyes made them obey. They soon came back to the kitchen carrying poor Pinocchio, who was wriggling like an eel and crying in despair, "Oh, father, save me! I don't want to die! I don't want to die!" Chapter 11. Father Eater sneezes and forgives. The manager Fire Eater, for that he was his name, seemed to be a terrible fellow. That is to say, he looked terrible with that saggy black beard covering his body and legs like an apron, but at heart he was not such a bad man. When he saw the struggles of poor Pinocchio and heard his screams, he, he was touched with pity for a little while. He resisted his feelings when when he could not hold in any longer, he gave forth a tremendous sneeze. At that sneeze, one of the puppets who had carried Pinocchio in, and who had since been doubled up with weeping, began to brighten up, and leaning over the whispered, "Good news, brother. Our master has sneezed, and that is a sure sign that he is moved with pity for you, and that you are saved. You must, you must know that when men are sorry, they cry, or at least they rub their eyes." By Fire Eater was different. He always had to sneeze. That was his way of showing the tenderness of his heart. After he had sneezed, the showman looked particularly fierce and yelled at Pinocchio, "Stop weeping! Your cries have given me a very bad feeling in this pit of my stomach. I feel a spasm that almost ha-chee. "Heaven bless you," said Pinocchio. "Thanks. And your father and mother, are they still living?" asked Fire Eater. "My father is, but I never had a mother. What distress it would have caused your old father if you had been thrown into the fire. Poor old man. I pity him. Ah, chee, ah, choo, ah, chee." "Heaven bless you," said Pinocchio. Thanks, but then somebody must pity me too, for you. I have I see I have no more wood to roast my mutton, and to tell the truth, you, excuse me, you would have made a fine blaze. Now that I have felt pity, I must be impatient. Instead of you, I guess I shall have to burn one of the puppets in my company. Come here, guards. At this command, two wooden officers marched in the caps on their heads and swords at their sides. Then the showman said to them in a hoarse voice, "Seize upon Harlequin here and throw him on the fire. I must have my mutton well roasted." Think of poor Harlequin's fix. He was so scared that his legs gave way under him, and he fell flat on the ground. At this sad sight, Pinocchio threw himself at the manager's feet and weeping so hard that he wet the end of the long black whiskers. He cried in a pleading voice, "Have pity, Miss." "Have pity, Mr. Fire Eater. There are no misters here," and said the showman in a hard voice. "Have pity, my lord. There are no lords here. Have pity, general. There are no generals here either. Have pity, your excellency." When he heard himself called excellency, the showman at once became soft. He said to Pinocchio in a kindly voice, "Well, what do you want of me?" "I beg of you to spare poor Harlequin." "I don't see how I can spare him. I have let you go, and I must have someone to put on a fire in order to roast my mutton well." "In that case," said Pinocchio bravely, "in that case, I know my duty. Come, sir guards, tie my hands and throw me on the fire. It is not right that my friends should suffer in my stead." At these words, pronounced in a loud, heroic voice, all the puppets began to cry. Even the guards, though made of wood, began to cry like a couple of lambs. Fire Eater at first sat silent and unmoved like a peace wife. But at last, little by little, he began to soften and then sneeze. And after sneezing 4 or 5 times, he opened his arms to Pinocchio, saying, "You are indeed a brave boy. Come and give me a kiss." Pinocchio ran to him and climbing his beard as nimbly as a squirrel, gave him a big kiss and on the end of his nose. "Then I am to be spared too?" asked poor Harlequin in a frightened little voice. "Yes," replied Fire Eater, sighing and shaking his head. "I must have patience and eat my mutton half roasted this evening, but woe to the next one." When they learned that everybody was spared, the puppets ran to the stage and turning up the lights began to frolic and dance as if it were a gala night. And they danced until the next morning. We'll continue later on with chapter 12, The Fox and the Cat. And I have something special for you guys. It's Pinocchio, I Have Got No Strings.
yourself. And maybe you'll listen to your conscience.
Strings pull me down to make me fret or make me frown. I had strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me. I pull the merry-o. That's the only way to be. I want the world to know nothing ever worries me. I got no strings, so
But I told you,
they got strings, but you can see there are no strings on me. You have no strings, your arms is free. You love me by the side of ring. Yuck, 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 if you would do, I'd post my strings for you. You've got no strings to sing me up. You shall walk, that is all I know. I've got strings, but unto you, I cut my strings for you. Don't turn the world goes loose. There's a Russian on there. They're mean and I couldn't go. But I rather go with you. Eh? Hey! Hey! There are no strings on me.
They like him. He's a success. Gosh, maybe I was late.
All right, so I'll see you guys later on today, okay, or tomorrow. Okay, can't promise anything. Bye.
What's happening.